everybody. So this is really exciting. I am here to talk books that made better movies. You know, they always say the book is better than the movie, but there are occasions where the movie is actually better than taking the time to read the book. And I'm very excited because I am joined here by my sister Anna. And so do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rachel's younger sister. How many years are between us again? I
10
don't
years.
remember. 10 years.
Yeah.
And lately I've been more of a book person than a movie person, but these are ones where I like the movie better, actually.
Yeah. So this is going to be really fun. And so we both love to read, and I think that in the case of any of these, they're not like horrible books, right? Would you agree?
Oh yeah, most of mine are pretty good books. I just felt like it's a lot more time to read the book. So if the movie's just as good, even if it's not better, sometimes I'd rather just watch the movie so I can read a new book.
Yeah, yeah. And there's ones where I feel like the the book and the movie are basically equal for me, and so I didn't put those on the list. Like for me, To Kill a Mockingbird is they're both equally great. I think the movie and book. So
Mm-hmm.
so that I didn't have that on my list. But did you have any honorable mentions that didn't make your top five that you wanted to talk about at all?
I don't think so, or I can't remember.
Okay. I had a few that didn't make my top five. I had the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is one that I haven't read the book in a while, so maybe I'm a little off on it. But in my memory, the book was he was a little too whiny, a little too um, too complaining. Whereas in the movie, I like that he's more of the leader. You know, you see him more as the leader of Dumbledore's army. And, Umbridge is so great in that movie. And
Mm-hmm.
so the, I don't know, I think that I'm not going to say that movie is better maybe than the book, but I think in some ways it does improve upon it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? Being a big Harry Potter fan?
I think that because the movie is shorter, the book
Mm,
is better because even if you don't like the whiny parts, there's so much more of Dumbledore's army. Like all the stuff you love in the movie there'll be a lot more in the book.
mhm.
But I think that the movie definitely, with the time limits given, definitely took the best out of the book.
Mm,
And it's like, I think my favorite Harry Potter movie.
mhm.
So, but the book has a lot more details and a lot more humor maybe
Okay.
than the movie. But
I agree. It's my favorite also. I didn't know it was your favorite Harry Potter movie. Um, but it's interesting because it's not my favorite Harry Potter book, but it's my favorite Harry Potter movie. So that's interesting. And so uh, I also have as honorable mentions The Big Short. Did you ever see that movie?
mm-mm.
I recommend it. It's a really good movie, and it's just I actually really like the book also. The book is nonfiction, and it's just about the various corruption that went around and during the housing that created the housing bubble, and so it's very interesting. But what they managed to do is take this nonfiction book and turn it into a narrative in the movie, and they were very creative about how they did that and how they explained different things and how they uh, used different sort of segments to kind of explain different parts of the housing market that are kind of confusing, different securities and bonds and whatever, that are hard for us to understand. And so I think they actually made it a little bit more engaging, even though I like the book just because they added this kind of narrative and made it kind of flow together. And so it's one that I would put on this list. Another one that I also like better as a movie than a book is the Joy Luck Club. I like the book. It's good, but it's this book about these Chinese immigrant women and their daughters, and each chapter it switches from being the mothers and the daughters, and the movie spends a lot more time on the experiences of the mothers, and they're way more compelling than what I think are sort of petty concerns of the modern daughters. And so I like the movie in that case better than the book, even though they're both good. I like the book, but anyway, so that would be my other one. So those are my honorable mentions. But what is your number 5 on your list here?
Okay, I didn't put mine in any particular order, so I'll just start with Far From the Madding Crowd. I read the book after I saw the movie, and there's nothing wrong with the book. It's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about it was that I think her character is a lot more likable in the movie, and there was a lot of kind of old school sexism, which is like totally normal in a book from that period. Like, I'm not against that, but it wasn't that fun to read. Just like descriptions of her that made her sound kind of dainty and just about what femininity should be. But in the movie, she's totally like busting stereotypes, which she does in the book as well. But then you also get that old school side that is understandable, but just wasn't my favorite to read. So
Yeah,
I just prefer the movie.
I actually had this also on my list, but I knew when I found out you were going to cover it. I agree with you 100% on this one. I think that I also read the book after seeing the movie, so maybe we're both a little bit biased, but I felt like the book moved away from Bathsheba a lot, and you were spending time with characters I didn't care about and I didn't need to know about, and I was kind of frustrated, and I was like, let's get back to her. She's the interesting one. She's the dynamic one. She's the one I care about, and I felt like the movies did a lot better of like building up Gabriel and Bathsheba as a couple and as people that I cared about, and I was more invested in their relationship than I was in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the two actors that they got had such good chemistry together, and you really you wanted them to be happy. You were invested in them.
Yeah, in the book it wasn't so much like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, I mean, I do love the cinematography, the score, the other things in that movie. It's a movie that when I first saw it, I was a little tough on, because it does have problems, and I think that the book also has problems where I feel like the two other love interests, I guess we can call it that, aren't that developed and aren't that interesting. I particularly didn't like, I think it's Sergeant Troy, I think is his name.
Mm-hmm. I
didn't really like him. I don't know, I just didn't buy that she would be with him, and that she,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's kind of the same in the book. Like, it doesn't really develop their, and the friend that, and what the other guy, I forget his name, that she
Me
sends
too.
the
The
Valentine to.
older guy.
Yeah.
I forgot his name too.
Yeah, he wasn't all that developed either. It's like, why is he so like kind of obsessed with her to do what he
I liked
does?
him, but I agree Troy wasn't very well developed. It was like, why would you go for him at all,
Mm-hmm.
given the personality she had? But I liked the older guy. His story seemed believable to me, but
Hmm.
I can't remember
Yeah.
in the book, in the movie at least. I like that actor, I think.
Yeah, he's a good actor. Martin Sheen, I think he's, or no, I can't
Hmm.
remember. Anyway, okay. Well, that's a very good pick. I agree with you on that one. So my fifth pick is uh is not really for the movie, I admit, but it's more just like the adaptation that I think is better. Um, and so for me, it's Les Miserables. And I admit that the movie has lots of problems. I get it. But I just think the adaptation for the musical, I guess, for the Broadway musical, is better. And I know that people just love this novel. You know, it's a classic, Victor Hugo and everything, but I have never been able to get through it. I think
Hmm.
I I love long, classic novels. I've read most of the, challenging ones and had no problem with them. But man, I just find Les Miserables, like, he just spends like pages talking about the just these revolutionaries, and their cause, and I just, I don't know, it just becomes very, very tedious at times, and they're not characters that are all that compelling. And I think what they did with creating the Broadway musical is they created much more compelling characters than are in the book. Like somebody like Eponine is just not even a good character in the book, and they make
Hmm.
her so much more interesting and so much more uh, of a heartbreaking character. And even I think the Thénardiers are better in the musical. I think that, sort of just duplicitous and disgusting and whatever, and just more dishy, I guess.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I just think pretty much every character is better in the musical than in the book. I mean, Jean Valjean is equally good, I guess, in both. Uh, but I love Javert in the musical, and I love the how complex he is as a character, and how you can sort of see his motivations. And I get it that not all the singing is that great in the movie, and it has some other problems. But for me, I still like it. I still think it's good, and I still would rather watch the movie than read the book.
Hmm.
So I don't know. What do you think about Les Miserables?
I love the musical and I love the movie, but I never made it past like page 15 of the book. It's just too long and difficult for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you like the movie then of Les Miserables?
Yeah, I've actually only seen it the one time in the theaters, but at the time I loved it. I don't know why I haven't rewatched it, but I really liked it, even though
Yeah,
some of the singing was bad, but a lot of it was really good.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really like Hugh Jackman as Jean Valjean, which goes a long way
Hmm.
for that movie. And Anne Hathaway, I thought, crushed it uh, as Fantine. And I was not very excited when I heard that she was cast, but I thought she was really, really good. Yeah, she. I'm sure there's people that have played that part on Broadway who are better than her as far as singing, but I thought that she was good, and that her emotion really sold the part very much. So
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
my number five is Les Miserables. And so what is your number four?
It's Gone Girl, which I've also only seen once. I read the book again before I watched the movie. And oh no, opposite last time. Um, okay, I read the book and then the movie came out a little while later, and the book was good. It was fun. It was fine, but I did it on audiobook and it was like 10 hours to spend with this like creepy, horrible situation with these nasty characters. And it was fine, but I guess I usually don't like to read a book like that with where I have no one to root for, when it's like 10 hours of my time when I could spend 2 hours watching the movie. Anyways, for me, the book did nothing that the movie didn't cover almost. And I really enjoyed the movie. I don't know if I would have looked at it differently if I hadn't read the book first, but it just wasn't really worth reading the book. They're pretty much the same.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm not a big fan of Gone Girl. It's really well made, and I see why other people love it, but it just didn't. I just felt like her plan was so perfect. Like everything went, except for the fact that she was figured out by those rednecks that she was staying in the resort or wherever she was at. That was really the only thing that kind of went wrong. Everything, just they found all the things, they found all the clues and stuff that she put in place, like all were perfect, and every one kind of bowed to her manipulation like perfectly. And so I don't know, there was a point where I was just like, you got to be kidding me, like. So it wasn't, I guess it's just not my, I don't know, my thing, but it's certainly, it's, well acted and well made. And so I get why other people really are drawn to it, but I didn't care for it myself. So, but that's interesting to hear about the book. Cause I feel like I've heard that from other people too.
The one part about the book that I liked better than the movie was when she like does her disguise in the book. She goes all out, and that part was my favorite. Like, she's been slowly gaining weight, and it is like too perfectly planned, like you said, but this one was kind of believable to me. Like, she gained 30 pounds and she dyed her hair and cut it crazy, and like in the movie she's just herself with like a slightly mousier hairdo, and that's it, and she looks exactly the same. But in the book she's like very committed, and I liked hearing, like, I guess, a description of a woman like willfully making herself less beautiful, because you don't often hear that, like, I mean, for a scheme, but it just felt very like disruptive of like normal feminine stereotypes, what she was doing. Anyways, I enjoyed that part, but other than that, it's not that great.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be the case, because I don't know, it just felt like, I think she like puts a shawl on, and that's her big disguise. So yeah, it's interesting. I did like sort of the message of kind of the media and how the media manipulates the story, and 1 minute he's the hero, 1 minute he's not. That was good, but I don't know, I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this is so unrealistic of anything that could possibly happen. And so I don't know, that was my problem with it. But okay, that's a good pick. So my fourth pick is the A Christmas Story. And I know you're not as big a fan of this movie as I am, but I really love it. I think it is so funny, and just I think it has this sarcasm to it that I really love, and I just love the sweeter, more emotional moments of the movie, like when he fights the bully, and he has that moment with his mom, that she doesn't rat him out to the dad, and he says, there's things are always different for me after that, and with me and my mom, and just those little sweet moments, and funny moments, like when they get the tongue stuck to the pole, and stuff like that. Like, I really love it. And so when I went and read the book, I was expecting to have sort of these charming vignettes of childhood, kind of like what you get in the movie, but it's really not. It's just kind of, it wasn't funny. It wasn't, didn't have any of that emotion, any of that heart. It was just very bland, I thought, the book. And so I don't know, it just, it was just kind of crass. It just wasn't a good book. I didn't enjoy it. So that's my fourth pick for is a Christmas Story.
I didn't even know there was a book at all.
Yeah. Well, the author, the narrator of the movie is actually the author of the book, which is interesting.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah. And I think that they made a better a better they made a better movie than the book. And it
Mhm.
just didn't have that heart that the movie had, which I think, at least for me, maybe something about me having had been bullied, a little bit as a kid, that part always really rang really true to me, and I really, really loved that part. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So what do you have as number 3?
I have Brooklyn, and I love this movie so much. So then I picked up the book, and it's totally a great book, but for me, it was exactly the same. There's very few differences, and so I might as well just watch the movie because the movie's so good. I just love it so much.
Yeah, I love that movie too. I'm completely with you on that. And I think that I haven't read the book, but you
Mhm.
do have the screenwriter that's adapting is Nick Hornby, who is a really great screenwriter. And I think the way that I love in that movie how all of these characters that are just these small characters actually have kind of an arc and have it's just such a rich, deep movie, that characters like her friend at the her supervisor at the store, or the priest that she talks to, or the even the girls at her boarding school, like it would have been so boarding house, whatever. It would have been so easy to just make those characters like, I don't know, like the sarcastic one and the cheerful one and the like whatever, kind of have these archetypes that you often
Mhm.
see, but they actually have some, like, you grow to actually care a little bit for these minor characters, which just make the whole thing feel so much more rich. And then you have the two male characters, which would have been so easy to make one, the like you see in so many romantic comedies where where you have the one idiot, or you're like, why the
Mhm.
heck would she even want to be with this person? And then the hero, it's like, obviously she's going to pick this person. And
Mhm.
but they don't do that. Like, both options are good options, and both of them, she could be happy with either option, which creates tension and makes you care about them, and you just feel such empathy for her and what she's going to do.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
it's a bittersweet ending, but I'd say the book is even more bittersweet. Like, you question her motives and whether she really feels affection for. I think she's a little more cold-hearted, I guess, than the book. So I like the movie was a little bit more romantic than the book as
Oh,
well.
interesting. Yeah. Did they flesh out any of these sort of side characters more in the book than in the movie, or?
No, I think they did a really good job in the movie of taking what he did with those characters in the book. They were pretty much all the same as in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I love all the casting. I think in that movie is just spot on. I love the Julie Walters as the head of um, the boarding house. I think she's great. I really like the uh, the lady who plays her mother. I really like Domhnall Gleeson as the other guy. I really like the guy who plays the, the love interest here in America. I don't know. It's just a great movie. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it has such a sense of place. Like, I was so disappointed they didn't get nominated for best production design, because I feel like you just feel like you're
Mm-hmm.
there. So it's a good pick. So my number 3 is, let's see, I kind of ended this out of order, but my number 3 is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And what's interesting about this movie is that it was not only adapted by the writer of the book, Stephen Chbosky, but it was actually directed by him also. And I think that it's not a bad book, but I think that the movie is much better, in my opinion. I love this movie so much. It just really connected with me. It's the first movie that I really felt like I had a certain nostalgic experience with. Like, there's a lot of movies that I loved when I was younger, when I was in high school, that I have nostalgia for because I loved them when I was in high school. But I'm talking about a new movie that invoked those same kind of feelings, and it felt like it felt like it could have been my friends in my high school, and I felt like they got so many little details right that you never see in a high school movie. Like, most high school movies, they're big and bombastic and have these like huge parties that are so unrealistic and that you never see. But in Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's just like them hanging out in their friend's basement, like stuff like that felt so much more authentic and so much more real, and just little details like the big sort of fight in that happens, which is very common in a high school movie. This was the only one I've ever seen where he walks away and he has to put ice on his hand. And you just never see that. You never see them actually, like, because if you're in a fist fight and you're not like a trained fighter, like, you will break your hand, like you will need ice on your hand. And just little details like that I just thought made it so rich and so beautiful. And I love the performances and I love the script, and I just love that movie. I love the music. It really added a lot to me. And the book is told in like diary form, which is I don't really care for that. And I feel like it's sort of a cheap way of kind of like, we're getting into the heart of our character. We're going to do a diary. And so I don't know. The book is very profane too. It has tons of foul language, and which to me sort of hurt tone a little bit, which is such a well-controlled tone, I feel like, in the movie. So I don't know, I love that movie, and the book I thought was
I haven't read the book of that one, and I didn't love the movie at the time, but I only saw it once, so
you
I'll
didn't
have to rewatch it.
Oh really? I thought, because we went and sat together, I thought that you really liked it.
I liked it, but I didn't love it, I guess. I did enjoy it, but I didn't remember it afterwards. Like, looking back, I can barely remember it, so it didn't stick with me. But at the time, I liked it. I was happy I saw it, but I'll have to watch it again to see what I think of it now.
Yeah, you should. I'd be curious to know what you think about it, what you think now. But anyway, I know other people don't love it as much as I did, but I saw it 3 times in 1 week. I just absolutely loved it. So anyway, what is your number 2?
It's Atonement. I know you don't like this movie very much, but I love this movie. And the book, it has some interesting things that the movie doesn't have. One thing is that because Bryony is a writer, the book is a little bit meta in how it talks about writing a lot and like the passion that drives it and what writing means, which obviously the movie doesn't have at all. That was interesting, but also I get kind of tired of writers writing about writing.
Yeah.
Like just talking about how great their art form is, but it was interesting. And there's not that many differences. I just love the movie because I love the music. It's one of the best scores I've ever heard. And I think the acting is great and the cinematography. And the book has all the same characters, but for me, the movie is less about plot and more about these other like cinematic factors. So for me, the book was a little less exciting because it didn't have any of those things that I love about the movie, even though I think the themes are still really interesting, and it's really well written. But
Mm-hmm.
I just would rather watch the movie.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Wright knows how to make a beautiful looking movie. I mean, it is beautiful. The acting is great, like you say. I can totally understand why people in you love it. My problem is just I wish that they had taken more time to make the couple at the heart of the film more compelling to me. I felt like I didn't care about them enough, and it was just like side of me is just like, okay, you made out in a library, like move on, move on with your life. Like I don't know, it just wasn't compelling, and I guess I have a heart of coal, made of coal. I don't know. Like you let this ruin your whole life, and I don't know. So and people are obviously are quite quick to believe this girl, I mean this little girl. But anyway, so yeah, it's I can understand though why you and many, I'm certainly in the minority on that one, that's for sure. But oh well, what are you gonna do? So my number 2 is the let's see, make sure it's one the order I want to have it. My number 2 is The Sound of Music, and this is an interesting one because I feel like it's a better movie than the play, and it's a better play than the book. So it's 2 different types of good adaptations. It's like each step they kind of made it better and better and better. The book is boring. It is not good. I don't know, she's just obviously not a trained writer with Maria von Trapp, and it is just slow and boring, and she's not all that likable, and I don't know, it's just not a very good book. And I think that it's probably no mistake that I have a number of and I thought of a number of musicals for this, because I think that when you can add that music, it just makes, if it's good music, it just makes such a different dynamic than you can get in a book, when you have this musical. And it adds a whole nother kind of layer of experience, like you were saying with the music in Atonement. And so when they wrote the play, it was written for a woman named Mary Martin, who was a big Broadway star, but she had a somewhat limited range. And so they had this, the songs are written, like if you think of Do Re Mi, songs like that are within a pretty limited range. And yeah. And then, so when they were updating it for the movie, you got Julie Andrews, who's amazing. They were able to add a couple new songs for her with Eye of Confidence, and they changed things around, they moved things around, and I think made it a lot better. Like they have my favorite things in the scene with the scare of the thunderstorm, which is where in the play is where they do the Lonely Goat Herder song, which I think works way better the way they have it in the movie. And they add Something Good was new for the movie. I think that's really good. And they also take out 2 songs from the original play that were sung by the Baroness and Max, that made them a lot more duplicitous. And
they were like evil in the play, right?
Yeah,
basically. Yeah,
exactly. And so I think that they made them a lot better characters, more interesting, at least to me, more interesting characters. And those songs are not that good, so it was a good choice to take them out. So all along the way, I think that they made that a better version of the story. And It's one of my favorite movies, and it's probably my favorite movie musical. And so that's why I would say that it's certainly way better than the book. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know there was a book for this one either, even though it makes sense.
Yeah, like somebody had a lot of vision when they decided to turn that book, because on the surface it's just like you don't see it as a musical.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was very creative.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So so what is your number one pick?
My number one is Silver Linings Playbook, and it's been so long since I read the book that I actually don't remember that much about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the kind of book I would ever normally read. It's not really my style. I read it because I love the movie so much, and I just remember it being a little more melodramatic, a little less heartfelt. Like the characters were more catty, and the dad is way less complicated, way more just mean in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, Robert De Niro makes the character like interesting and complicated and more likable than not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the book, he's totally a jerk, and I just don't remember being impressed by the romance. Even in the movie, the romance is so beautiful, but at the end, I'm kind of like, would these two people function together though? But I just love the way it develops in the movie and the style of the movie. But the book, I don't know. I just remember it being not very heartfelt, more one dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not positive. It's been a while.
Yeah, I love that movie. I haven't read the book, but I've heard that from other people as well about the book. And I love the chemistry that you have between Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence in that uh, movie. And I think that I think adds a lot to the experience in making these characters that are kind of unlikable, making them likable because they're they're who they are, and they there's just so many scenes where you're kind of rooting for these characters that I can picture if they're not done the right way in the book, that you wouldn't be as empathetic, you wouldn't be rooting for them in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
And I think in the book, it's like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, where, at least if I remember right, it builds the story into a big reveal, which I guess spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. In Silver Linings Playbook, at the very beginning, they talk about how his wife cheated on him, but in the book, they pace it out until the very end as like a big reveal, I think, if I remember right. And I have seen
oh
it too many times. I thought it was way better in the movie, just as like showing you. I don't know. I didn't think it was that interesting of a reveal. Like
right.
a man gets cheated on, like it sucks, but it's not like that interesting. I don't know. I liked it just
Mm-hmm.
better in the movie where they showed it right off the bat and didn't try to play it up as like the super dramatic um, reveal at the end.
Yeah, yeah. It gives you an empathy for him, and you kind of understand where he's coming from. And I just thought the way that movie handled mental illness was so good and so uh, just lovely. It wasn't like the precocious kind of like I feel like you get either sort of the scary mental illness kind of that you see in movies. You still see that portrayal of like the scary guy, or you see the like lovable uh, character. That really really annoys me, and that I think just avoided all of those uh, cliches and those tropes that you see. And these were actual like complex, interesting characters that I really do love. Someone like Jennifer Lawrence's character, the fact that she is somebody who has been, had this, like, I guess, sex addiction, if you want to call it, or whatever. She's somebody that the screenplay could really kind of look down on and judge, but they don't. And she's a full character, and she's somebody who's interesting and you really feel empathy for. And so yeah, I think it's no mistake that she won the Oscar that year for that
Yeah,
performance.
definitely.
Yeah, it was really good. So, all right, it was a great pick. So my number one movie that I think is better than the book is The Princess Bride. I thought I did see the movie before I read the book. And the screenplay is written by William Goldwyn, who wrote the book. And so I wouldn't think there would be that big of a difference between the two, but I really didn't like the book at all. The in the movie, they'll be going along and they'll have like a few little interruptions between the boy and the grandpa. It'll be like, oh, stop with the kissing or whatever kind of things. And that's just kind of charming, and it's Peter Falk, and he's just hilarious and wonderful, and so it works. It's fun. It's part of the storytelling and the narrator and everything. It works. But in the book, they have so many interruptions, and it's from the author. It's not from the grandpa, and it's him giving this cheeky commentary about what's going on in the story. And I found it so obnoxious. I hated it. It just took me out of the story, and I didn't like it. And I couldn't get into the characters at all. I didn't like the characters because I just kept getting interrupted from the story. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it charming. I hated that. And it's a pretty long book to be just continually interrupted. And I don't know. It was like Jar Jar Binks for me. I hated all those interruptions, and it really ruined the book for me. I didn't like it.
Like Jar Jar.
So, yeah, I know other people feel differently. Other people like that book better than the movie. But I don't know. I just think that movie is a classic kind of, basically like a fairy tale. You've got storming the castle, and you've got princes and princesses, and deceit, and the six-fingered man, and giants, and you've got all these just so much fun elements, sword fighting, and pirates, and you just got all these really, really fun elements. And it is. I know some people that don't like it, and I feel like they were kind of maybe they were sold the wrong bill of goods. And they were told that's like super funny, and it's like the most funny movie ever. And it certainly has funny aspects to it, but I wouldn't even personally describe it as a comedy. I would describe it as a fairy tale. I would describe it as an adventure, it has funny things, but I don't think that it's a comedy. And so I think people that are like going into it expecting to just laugh their heads off, like Holy Grail, like Monty Python and Holy Grail or something, will maybe be a little bit disappointed. But I don't know. I think it's more of an adventure. It's more of a fairy tale. It's similar, I think, to like the first Pirates movie. So I love it. I love all the performances. I love the movie, but I found the book insufferable.
I've heard that from other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The book is bad.
Yeah. So anyway, what's your number one?
Oh, Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I think that these are this has been a good list, and good movies, and it's important to, I think, keep your toe in both mediums. To see the kind of the big movies, and to see these films, and to be inspired by them, but then also to keep reading. I know a lot of people that follow my channel probably are more into movies than books, but I think it's important to keep reading, and to keep trying to find. It's hard for me to find modern novels that I like, but I think it's important to keep trying.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and to keep, but I also think it's important to, I think movies are a really important art form and a form of storytelling in our day and age. And it's important to kind of also keep your toe in that pool as well.
Yeah, definitely. Do both.
Yes, for sure. So, yeah. And, uh, so let me think. So, yeah. And if you could just check we'll check I know you don't have like a Twitter or anything like that, but just check the comments and hopefully if people want to reach out to you or anything or have any comments, you can do that there, and put in the comments your favorite book to movie translations, adaptations, and let us know what you think and which ones are your favorite. And if you have any other ideas for book podcasts that you think might be interesting, then also put that in the comments. And thanks so much. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.